Today, Bitcoin reached a new all-time high of $123,548. Given that Bitcoin is actually moving upward and is most likely going to enter price discovery further and go on that final parabolic stretch, you may be wondering if we are thinking too big for XRP or perhaps not big enough. This is because the entire asset class moves in tandem with Bitcoin. This channel is focused on XRP. Although I acknowledge my bias, I always try my best to be as intellectually honest as possible, even when it comes to XRP, including potential negative this or that as it relates to the XRP ecosystem, including price action. However, I can assure you that in my entire life, it is nearly impossible to find chart analysts of any repute who are predicting that XRP will not perform well. And in the few cases that I do find, it is extremely short-term price action where they are not discounting the big picture. It still rips faces off and simply melts upward, getting a double-digit price action, that kind of stuff. The worst things I can uncover are usually fairly short-term, but I'll give it a shot. I'm going to share with you the most pessimistic viewpoint I could discover today, and unlike what some people may think, it's not really that bad. I mean it. A lot of XRP holders are really angry with this chart analyst. He is an XRP bull, and it affects the majority of the cryptocurrency that he owns. Nevertheless, it seems that some people are still a little angry about this, but it's not really a bad thing. I just wish it were really bad, even though I am never scared to offer the most negative viewpoint I can find on this channel, which is what I'm doing here. For you people, this is the best I could find, so if you want to hear the worst, here's the video. However, I want to be clear right away that it's not even bad. The price of XRP is $3.27, which is exactly the same as it was when I made my last video. However, Bitcoin rose slightly. I don't mind seeing that. According to Live Coin Watch, it has increased by more than 3% in the past day, hitting a high of $124,169.38. Folks, this is a new all-time high. This isn't finished, I assure you. Indeed, if history is to be believed, we are nearing the end of this cycle in terms of time. There are respectable analysts, I'm sure of it, not a majority in my opinion. Some others believe that this will continue until 2026 at some point. I'll give them all the credit they deserve if they're correct. Here, that is a minority viewpoint. The most exciting and life-altering part of this is about to begin. And the fact that Bitcoin has hit what it is here and what it has here, well, that bodes well for that, if that's what you want, which, honestly, is what I want. If this thing is, if it's going to keep rhyming with itself, cycle-wise, we're probably done here. I'm prepared for this to end. Now is the time when, to be honest, I would reflect on all we've experienced. So I want my third ecstatic circumstance in crypto, simply the third euphoric situation in crypto. However, even if you ignore it, the past 5 years have been absurd. Regardless of that, since I've been here for a little over 7.5 years, it's kind of funny to think that that's just like a ridiculous amount of time to have never cashed out to USD in crypto. That is almost unheard of. I'll speak for myself here. The amount of time I've been accumulating is way longer than the typical crypto holder. However, I swear to God, I have only been holding and have never paid out to USD. I can go into more detail about why I purposefully made the round trip in a different video, but I'm ready. And now is the time for it to happen. The S&P 500, of course, hit yet another new all-time high today. Of course, this was triggered by yesterday's excellent CPI news, or at least that's how the market interpreted it. I'll go into more detail about that in a different video, but it's outside the purview of what I really want to cover here. However, the market fell below expectations, so yeah, it started ripping, and cryptocurrency is going hand in hand. A few hours ago, I posted this post, which stated that Bitcoin had reached a new all-time high of slightly over $123,000. At that time, altcoins were displaying strength and rising. I'm telling you, I have no idea where it's going to peak. Perhaps the more conservative men, like the blockchain backer, are predicting $130,000 or $135,000, or perhaps the guys are predicting $150,000, $180,000, or who knows? I'm not sure who is correct, but in the end, it doesn't matter in terms of what it means for altcoins. Yes, of course, but more money flows into alts, the higher Bitcoin rises. However, in terms of direction, I'm saying it doesn't matter because we get alt season regardless. We get XRP tearing faces off, and if it doesn't melt them first, we get that regardless. The blockchain backer wrote this post a few hours ago. You just adore seeing the Russell 2000 break its bonds, which is obviously a sign of small cap companies. When that occurs, it indicates that investors are involved. They're going further out the risk curve, when that happens with the Russell 2000. that there's a much greater appetite for what's happening in crypto, so you go further out the risk curve in crypto as well. So that's fantastic. Now, of course, at the time this is happening, it's like, so yes, the last couple days in particular, yes, alts have been running, for sure. Like Bitcoin Diamonds has been down. Before this most recent run, it was 59.5%, something like that. So presumably it's a little bit higher. Presumably, like I didn't check it right before recording this video, but I say that because Bitcoin went up a bit and I don't see like altcoins have melted faces even further than they already have, which is why I say that. But Bitcoin kicked off here, as the blockchain backer noted, 5:42 p.m. Central. And he wrote, and like magic, Bitcoin new all-time high. Isn't it funny? The confluence here. And that's obviously what he's pointing out here. There are so many things happening. Like you would want and hope, that's redundant, want and expect, based on SR precedent is true. Like everything is so perfectly positioned. Like the odds that all this confluence is what it is, and then we just get nothing. It's so close to zero. Like I do not take it seriously. Melting faces, yes, that's what's next. Here's a post from chart analyst Tech Dev. He shared this with his 543,700 followers on X, and he simply wrote, altcoins, chart needs no commentary. Well, it may need no commentary, but it could use a label here. Tech Dev, I'm a huge fan of this guy, but my one pet peeve about him is he does not sufficiently label his charts here. He didn't even bother to put that this is total 2, and I'm assuming that it is right here. It's either that or total 3. Almost certainly I get that. So it would just be, the top 125 coins by market cap, excluding Bitcoin, of course. But look, either way, this chart's going back several years, and he's showing that this wedge here breaking out, it already has, and you know what happens next once you get out of that, and it almost always happens before you get to the apex. Of course, that would be the case here. Rocket to the upside. You'll love to see it. So what's the worst that we could say about XRP? Well, that comes from none other than Charting Guy, who, by the way, I said it at the outset, he is an XRP bull. In fact, he's one of the many analysts that I follow who last year accurately called XRP breaking out of a nearly 7-year-long symmetrical triangle. He was right about that. And he's remained his bullish stance on a higher time frame, despite what I'm about to share with you. But like I told you, like I'm trying to find the negative stuff. It's just impossible. It's just about, this is the closest I can get to it. And in this case, there actually are people who are upset with him enough that he's noticing some negativity here and responding on X. So, I mean, that says something, I guess, to some degree. But like, this is the worst I can find. An XRP bull, this is the worst I can find, okay? And look, if you guys can find that one unicorn out there who's a respected chart analyst and maintains that XRP simply won't perform well on a longer time frame, tell me, and I'll be happy to share it and give you credit. I'm just saying, if it's out there, like I can't find it, folks, just give it to me on a silver platter and I'll be happy to do that. So this is what he wrote. He claims that as of yesterday, it appeared that XRP was on track to overtake Ethereum in market capitalization, but I don't think that's the case anymore. I'll just take a moment to mention that there is historical precedent for XRP displacing ETH as the second largest market capitalization. This has happened multiple times in history, including in 2017 and 2018, but each time it was brief. But since it has already happened, it wouldn't be absurd to believe that it could happen here. He says, I re-entered Ethereum in April near the lows, and it has shown immense strength since, and is now just 10% away from an all-time high. He also notes that XRP likely has a 2.5x maximum left, and even if that happens, its market cap won't even be at what ETH's is at right now. Own both, relax, and be content with things going as they do. I should also mention that I have been holding both since 2017. In fact, Ethereum was the first cryptocurrency I ever bought. I bought ETH, Litecoin, and Bitcoin in that order on November 10th, 2017, because that was all that was available on Coinbase at the time. Then, a week later, after doing some research, I bought XRP, and the rest is history, of course. But yeah, I've been holding, so like, I'm not a maxi. Yes, I have a prejudice. We all have the right to our own ideas. XRP is my favorite coin and my largest individual cryptocurrency position, but I've made it plain that I want everything to succeed. He says here that Ethereum's strength and outperformance were long deserved, and if you were paying attention, I timed it exactly so. He goes on to say, I firmly believe the entire asset class is just going to keep expanding outwards, and at least to this point, Ethereum's a part of that. That's an intriguing viewpoint, and some people thought it was a little provocative. Are you saying that XRP won't move up to the second position in terms of market capitalization? Well, personally, I still think it could. I'm not making a prediction, like I just admit, I don't know if that's going to happen. But the idea of it either getting there or getting pretty damn close, not wild. And so it makes a ton of sense to be optimistic. XRP can get way higher. But check this out. There are a few more comments here. So chart analyst XRPunky responded to that, and he said, so you don't see a $20-ish XRP? And charting guy said, unlikely this cycle, in my opinion. So he's not even ruling it out, like even charting guy, the most negative sentiment I could find. And yes, again, XRP bull here.
He is acknowledging it's at least possible. He does not think that's probable. He doesn't think that's going to occur, but even the most bearish guy that I can find today is like, okay, so acknowledging it could go to 20 at least, right? I don't see would have worded things differently here. And then there's also this. He said here, I actually think $10 XRP this cycle will be like $100,000 Bitcoin last cycle, barely out of reach and just a target to keep people bag holding. I think we top at $8. Okay, I can only speak for myself here, of course. If we reach $8 here, if we're presented with that price action, I personally will be thrilled, absolutely. But I made it clear, like, I intend to scale out of my position between 5 to 8, ideally selling most of my XRP, if not all of it, between $7 to $8 range. So if he's right, I personally will be very thrilled. I know that's lower than what many of you listening want, but it's all personal perspective, opinion, whatever. That's fine. If you want a higher price, you're expecting a higher price, reasonable, totally reasonable, of course. But, look, reserve the right to hold back. Like I said, 5, 10, 15% on the high end, for a moonshot, maybe that means XRP goes to 15, 20. I might do that. I might hold a little bit. There's too many moving parts for me to say for sure if I'm going to do that. But if I have pulled in enough profit by the time we're in that type of situation, yeah, I might. And I talked about that before, but $8, that's in the realm of what the blockchain backer is talking about. He keeps saying 8, 9, 10, a little over 10 maybe. These are the most conservative price predictions that are out there, just about anyway. And maybe they're right. And if they are, absolutely credit where it's due. That's about the lowest I could possibly see it, to where the cycle's over and I'm happy with how things went. Now, XRP dropped as low as 28 cents. So if you're thinking $8 isn't enough, that's okay. That's a personal opinion. I'm merely telling you to go from 28 cents to $8. That's incredibly amazing and freaking good. But I admit it could be much more absurd. Like, things happen in the crypto world. I completely understand. So if you're one of those individuals who is cheering for it, then it's not only reasonable, what you may wish and possibly anticipate happening, but it's also feasible. It's very possible in this situation. Additionally, he stated, so he replied, oh no, when asked, what do you think Ethereum has if XRP is 2.5x? According to what I read in that thread, the charting person stated in his initial post that XRP may be 2.5x from this point. So what does it mean for Ethereum? Additionally, the charting man here stated that they most likely do the same generally from here.
Let me tell you something. I'm not a chart man, but I have serious doubts about it. The same 2.5x? All right, so have this in mind. Historically, if you look at the last 2 market cycles, XRP has had a large pump, moved sideways for 6 months, and then had another major pump. I've mentioned this numerous times. Even after a little more than 6 months, that's what's happened. And we're still at odds over it. Yes, we are now at the final pump. It began to move. You could argue that, of course, and I'm just telling you, if history is to be believed, this second pump will be far more severe than the first one, at least about dollars. If that's the case, and Ethereum and XRP perform similarly, then I'm not sure that even if Ethereum underperforms, XRP would still go crazy, because that would be consistent with a historical precedent. That's why even analysts who are calling for close to, like he said here, 2.5, even a 3-fold increase, anywhere around there, that's significantly greater than the first rip to the upside. And again, I'm talking in terms of the dollar, not percentage gains, but that's what I think we probably have in store for us, because why would it be any different at the most euphoric part of the entire cycle here, where XRP performs less impressively? I find it difficult to believe that. I do. We'll see here then. I accept that he might be correct. I've actually been following Charting Guy for, I'm not sure how long, a year and a half, or perhaps a little longer. He's been really level-headed, accurate, and has a very good accuracy rating here, actually. I don't know if it's been 2 years. He simply happens to be more conservative than other analysts when it comes to XRP price estimates. The minority view is sometimes right, but it is only that. The majority of respectable chart analysts do not hold that view. Thus, we shall see.
My usual conclusion is that, it's like a bell curve where the truth lies somewhere in the middle, with extremes on either end and the tails chopped off there. In any case, usually. As I mentioned earlier, the minority viewpoint may occasionally be right, but I'm not depending on that. The truth, in my opinion, is probably somewhere in the middle. Thus, we'll see neither the top nor the lowest here. I'll tell you what, though. He's been getting pissed up over this. The charting guy wrote, "You must not know that utility in crypto doesn't mean shit currently." Bryant wrote to him saying, "You must not know what real-world utility is, but how could you? You've never seen it before." Both of them are incorrect people. I have nothing against either of them, and certainly nothing against this Bryant person. In any case, I like the charting guy. Bryant is completely mistaken. It's as if this is a typical error that people make. People, you can't be more wrong than to assume that everything that happens here, particularly at the end of the cycle, is motivated by utility. He is completely mistaken. I have the utmost confidence in that. Throughout its entire existence, XRP has maintained its position in the top 10 coins by market capitalization due to its usefulness. It's accurate. Only 3 coins in history have ever dropped out of the top 10 by market capitalization. It's not a coincidence. That's because individuals, like you and me, understand that utility does matter. XRP has remained in the top 10 coin range by market capitalization because of people like you and me. That's what we've done, because that is what we value. Coins don't run in euphoria for that reason. I'm not sure what it is, but it's a large green candle in euphoria. My money is here. In fact, that's what occurs. Thus, utility is important in this case. It's rubbish when he claims that you must not understand utility and that cryptocurrency isn't worth anything right now. I also disagree with that, and the charting guy is mistaken. Yes, it is. Because if he were correct and cryptocurrency is meaningless, then Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP are all merely because they have consistently been among the top 10 coins by market value. It has no significance. What am I doing here then? Does everyone else buy XRP because it's a random thing they know exists? And am I the only person who believes utility matters? Hurry up. Thus, I believe they are both mistaken. It seems so clear to me. However, this has led to many being angry with the charting guy, and that is cute in my opinion. This is what he wrote then. This is the charting guy's most recent post from last night. He tweeted what I just shared with you and said, "So many XRP maxis are coming for my head over this." Since there are no XRP maxis, I had to stop here already. Oh, okay, all right. Somewhere in the forest, maybe in a patch of grass with green leaves, there's one playing. If you can locate this person, show me. While there are countless absurdly large numbers of Bitcoin maximalists, I believe that, to be honest, I may have seen 1 or 2 self-proclaimed XRP maximalists. We are non-existent. As if they don't exist, because members of the XRP community like ourselves are only present because we genuinely believe that this is a fantastic investment opportunity. Like, that's the essence of it. I am here for that reason. I'm ready to wager that you're here for that reason. Although many Bitcoiners have successfully done so, you are not some kind of maximalist with an ideological bent who has made cryptocurrencies into religions. Therefore, I disagree with the maxim. However, he goes on to explain, and that's if Ethereum stops here and does nothing while XRP does a 3x, which seems improbable to me.
I like Charting Guy's intellectual integrity. He's making a statement that goes against his best interests. He is clearly just expressing his own opinions, and some people are upset about it. I'm glad he's expressing his opinions. If that's not what you believe will happen, I don't need your insane moonshot nonsensical viewpoint. The definition of a moonshot is subjective, but even if he is correct, $8 is, in my opinion, incredibly transformative. To be honest, I would be overjoyed to receive $8. However, given Ethereum's current market capitalization, he doesn't believe this idea, XRP, will materialize. Additionally, XRP would already need to be $9.30 at the same market capitalization. That's higher than where he believes it will go. Then, Ethereum. Do you really think this is where it will end? Well, you make a valid point. Ethereum won't stop here, in my opinion. It's not likely at all, in my opinion. That's precisely why I'm stating this, and the reason why many analysts like Credible Crypto and Crypto Insight UK believe that XRP will likely peak between $20 and $30. You're correct then. Yes, Charting Guy, you are correct. ETH's market capitalization would need to reach $9.30 for XRP to catch up. Additionally, ETH is now operating and will continue to do so. But why is XRP unable to bridge the gap? Have you looked at the chart of XRP/ETH? Take a look at that trading pair.
It has collapsed in recent months as I had anticipated because it was not difficult to do so. It will, in my opinion, bridge the gap, and XRP will probably keep making Ethereum its baby back pouch. I anticipate that. We'll see, but I believe that by a lot is the most likely. In any case, he has a very legitimate opinion here. There is absolutely nothing wrong with his viewpoint. I think it's absurd that it upset anyone. It's just a guy's viewpoint, to be honest. Here he is acting with intellectual integrity, and he might be correct. I mean, I admit that he might be correct. I'm hoping he's not. He probably hopes he isn't. However, if the market rises to the point where, for example, Ethereum reaches $10,000, just 2 times its previous all-time high, I'm hopeful. I'm telling you, the idea that XRP might approach it is not out of the question.
Additionally, it's possible that XRP doesn't even reach the second highest market capitalization for a single cycle moment. Okay, that is feasible. If it does, I won't be shocked, but if not, that's okay. It might get close. Therefore, even if you're talking about $15 XRP, I'm not sure if it will happen, but it's not crazy here. And everyone has the right to their own perspective. In reality, you state that as an opinion. However, I will reiterate at the end of the video that, according to the group of reliable analysts I frequently follow, there are extremes between the low and high estimates for the price peak of XRP this cycle. Furthermore, I don't think any of them is right. The reality is typically somewhere in the middle. Indeed, it might be in the lower end. However, the notion that it's only $8 or $40 is questionable. Either way, it might happen. I doubt it. Simply said, I simply do not believe that we will be let down. I still have to say that. I simply do not believe that we will be let down by the end of the cycle. I will therefore cease yapping here. That's all I have to say about it. Please share your thoughts in the space provided for comments below.